so we can start our discussion. So usually I start with just a simple, like, what did you think of the story? How did it make you feel, or what did it make you think about?
With this one, I was trying to just keep track of the storyline. There was a lot of different things with it. So it was definitely like an adventure story. So like it was exciting, but at the same time reading through it, I was like confused.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. Armand, did you have any impressions?
I'm gonna be honest, I've been super busy. I haven't read it yet.
Oh, well, that will make discussing it a little bit more challenging, since you
Yeah, because I have been doing quiz and quiz and quiz and test and test and test, and I had no time to read it.
All right,
I'll
well,
try to read it as soon as I can so that I can try to do the
you
assignment.
want to do the test. Well, the
Mainly,
test. Go ahead.
and my main focus is making sure that I can get my physics grade up, because it's the one grade that isn't passing.
Mm. Well,
Everything's passing except for physics. So I'm trying to focus on physics. And also math's a problem for me, but it's not failing like physics is.
well, then I can understand you wanting to put your energy towards that. But
Yeah.
let's get back to our story here. So, A Good Man is Hard to Find by Flannery O'Connor. If you saw the PowerPoint presentation or slideshow or whatever, you saw that this is considered Southern Gothic. And Southern Gothic is a genre of writing that includes other people such as Edgar Allan Poe, which you guys are probably familiar with, William Faulkner, obviously Flannery O'Connor, since we're reading her stuff, Eudora Welty. There's a whole bunch of people who write. Carson McCullers, maybe you've read something by Carson McCullers, who write in Southern Gothic. And so the elements of Southern Gothic include like grotesque characters and like a freakish type of character, the outsider. They usually have imprisonment in them. They have a lot of violence in them, and it has a sense of place. So what I did as kind of an exercise is I took all of the elements of Southern Gothic, and then I kind of applied it to the short story to pull out what those elements are. But first, how about we just do like basic plot? What do you think about that? So is that good, Haley?
Yeah.
Okay. So the story starts with this family. Bailey is the son / father. There's the grandmother who is his mother, and then so she's also his children's grandmother, and she never gets a name. There's John Wesley, who's the oldest son, and there's June Starr, who is his sister / the daughter, and then there's also the mother, which, as far as I could tell, the mother also doesn't get a name. In fact, I don't think any of the female characters in this short story have names, so that's something. So they're discussing going on a family vacation, and the grandmother wants to go to Tennessee, and the rest of the family wants to go to Florida. They live in Atlanta. So they're right off. You see the setting it's set in the South. Flannery O'Connor was born in Savannah, Georgia, and she lived in Atlanta for a time. And then she also lived in Milledgeville. So she's a Georgia person, born and bred. So the grandma tries to convince them to go to Tennessee because she says that there is a bad guy who has gotten out of prison. His name's the Misfit, and he's in Florida. She says we can't possibly go to Florida because the Misfit's down there, and that's just unsafe. But really, she's just trying to manipulate the family into going to Tennessee because that's where she went. Nobody listens to her. Not her son, not the children, nobody. So of course, they go to Florida. And on the way to Florida, she tells them stories. They stop at this restaurant slash gas station slash dance club place that's called the Tower. It's kind of a weird place. Talks to people there. And then she tries to convince the father, Bailey, to pull over because she remembers this house she used to live in and she really, really wants to see it again and see what it looks like. And Bailey doesn't want to pull over. So the grandmother lies and says, oh, hey, Armand, would you mute yours because we can hear your typing?
Oh yeah, my keyboard, it's a mechanical keyboard, so of course it's gonna be loud. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. If you
Usually I'm used to Discord and using push to talk so that no one can hear everything that I do.
right.
So, yeah,
Okay.
apologies.
Thank you. That's great. So she tells the children that there's a secret panel in the house that she wants to go visit that has treasure in it. So the children throw a hissy fit until the father agrees to get off the road and go and find this house. So they're driving down this road. It's very dangerous, curvy. It has long, like big ditches on the side of it. And the kids are being loud and screaming and stuff. And then the grandmother has this realization. Do you remember what the realization is, Haley?
Tennessee.
The house is in Tennessee. It's not in Florida or Georgia, Southern Georgia. I think they're in Southern Georgia at this time. And she feels like so embarrassed and so like guilty for making her son get off the road. She discombobulates her and she kicks the basket that the cat is in. The cat gets out of the basket, jumps on Bailey. Bailey crashes the car, and the family ends up in a ditch. Fortunately, nobody dies. The mother breaks her shoulder, I think, but everybody else is pretty much okay. But then these three men come and they stop. And of course, the family is asking for help because they were just in a car accident. Unfortunately, one of the three men is the misfit. Dun, dun, dun! Which we kind of expect because he's been mentioned at least twice already, right? So, and the grandma said not to go down there, and there's like all sorts of foreshadowing. So, you know, not too surprising. So the grandmother starts talking to him and, you know, can you help us? And you wouldn't shoot a lady, would you? And like all of these things. I noticed she never like begs for her family's life. Like I'd never hear her say like, don't shoot Bailey, don't shoot the mother who never has a name, don't shoot John Wesley or my grandchildren or anything like that. No, it's all, you wouldn't shoot a lady, would you?
That, and later when they end up taking them into the forest, she like doesn't realize that it's happening. Like,
well, I think she knows on some level because she starts screaming Bailey's name. And you hear all of the gunshots, like Flannery O'Connor lists all the gunshots, and there are 5 gunshots, meaning they killed the baby too, which is really, really distressing.
Like any discussion about it. Meanwhile, while this is happening, she's still talking to the misfit.
That's right, like the whole time, and they're having this big theological discussion, which I'll come back to.
But what happened to the cat then?
Oh yeah, we can say that too. The cat was in the car during the car accident. So I'll come back to that. Let me get.
It's just how the cat causes the car crash and then is never spoken of again.
No, it actually is. It is. I'm getting there. So yeah, they have this big theological discussion, the misfit and the grandma. And then grandma has this epiphany or realization when she says, "Why, you're one of my own children," and she touches the misfit. Like, there's like different ways you can interpret it. One of the ways that you can interpret it is that he's not used to like kindness or accepting types of gestures. So when she touches him on the shoulder, it startles him and he shoots her 3 times. And then the bad guys drag her off into the woods, and that's basically the end of the story. So that's just basic plot overview, not talking about symbolism, themes, anything like that, just like basic plot of the story. On the cat, get out of the car. Bailey, the cat is like hanging on his shoulder, like it said, like a caterpillar. He's like hanging on. And Bailey takes the cat and throws it against a tree. And at that point in the story, I thought the cat was dead because he got thrown against a tree rather violently. And then, but you find out at the very end, towards like it's a little bit before the grandmother gets shot, I think, the cat comes and rubs up on the misfit's leg, and the misfit like picks him up and is petting him. So you know that the cat's okay. But that's like,
I don't think Reddit would like the person throwing the cat against the tree.
well, nobody
Loves cats.
That's one of the elements of a Southern Gothic story is, and that was like one of the instances of violence. But the cat survived. In fact, the cat's the only one who was in the car who survived. So we have a couple of different things that we could do. I have a list of ways that this is like Southern Gothic. I can show that to you. Okay. We have some character archetypes. The misfit, who is the outcast from society. If you looked at the Southern Gothic list, then you saw that there's usually an outcast or somebody who's a freak. You had the grandmother, who represents the societal norms. You had Red Sam, who's the good old boy stereotype. He even describes him as like having his belly hanging over his belt, and he's like working under his truck and always yelling at his wife and stuff like that. So that good old boy stereotype. Sorry?
Is there any significance to him storyline base?
Yes. Yes. So we'll come to that in just a second. So then the grotesque, Southern Gothic has the grotesque, which is like exaggerated features, usually something that's gross or ugly, or it can also be something that's like super exaggerated that causes comedy. So some of the elements of grotesqueness in the story, the grandmother said she likes this song, the Tennessee Waltz. If you actually, so I pulled it up because I was just curious to see what it sounded like. Because she asked Bailey to dance with her to it. And Bailey is because Bailey won't do anything she asks him to. But the song is actually about a woman who lets her man dance with her best friend, and then they run off together. So, so it's grotesque in the sense that it's like the grandmother thinks of it as a romantic thing. She's like, "Oh, I love this waltz, this dance, or whatever," and it's not romantic at all. The tower is grotesque, which is that gas station, dance hall, restaurant thing, which is described as a building of stucco and wood. The gray monkey chained to the tree. How weird is that? Like, who's expecting to see a pet monkey chained to a chinaberry tree? It was very grotesque. Red Sammy, his physical description and behavior. The car accident was very grotesque. It like describes them rolling over and getting hurt. June popping out of the car and being disappointed that nobody died in the accident.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. That's
What?
exactly.
So, yeah. The kids are the worst. Like, they are horrible kids. The description of the 3 men and then the image of the grandmother's body. And then I have like freakishness and the outsider is the misfit, and I have all sorts of quotations, and I'm not going to read through these right now, but I will post it on the classroom if you want the quotations. Southern Gothic also has and some examples of imprisonment were the fact that the misfit was straight up in prison, the gray monkeys chained to a tree, the wife who works in the tower, she kind of reminds you of a slave because her husband makes her do everything, like is always support with her, and it kind of made me think of Rapunzel because it's called the tower, and like he's obviously made her like work there and do everything. The grandmother is stuck in a family that doesn't love or respect her, and she's also stuck in the back seat of the car between the two children. The family is taken hostage. So all of these are examples of imprisonment, examples of violence. So many examples of violence. So, you can like just pick a page and you're probably going to find some violence, both verbal violence and physical violence. Yeah. The way the children treat each other, like they fight with each other, the way Sam talks to his wife, the car accident, throwing the cat against the tree, the fact that all 6 family members die, all of the violence, so much violence. Sense of place. There's mention of multiple southern cities and states, including like Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, Atlanta, a couple of other cities in Georgia. There's descriptions of southern plantations and houses. There's descriptions of the population or the characters that live in the South. There's extensive descriptions of the landscape. She talks about Stone Mountain and describes like the rocks and the trees and the sky and all of those things. She uses dialect to bring place, and she also uses country songs. So you're asking Haley about Red Sam and that whole part of the story there, right? Like, what is the significance of that?
Yeah.
So if we go to that portion, this is up here. Here we go. So first, it does help to evoke the sense of place, because this is very much like a Southern type of situation. Red Sammy's famous barbecue, none like it, all this, and a happy laugh. But then you see, so he's fixing a truck with his monkey that's trained to the tree, and then when he comes in, his wife has been serving the family and trying to be nice to them, even though Star June is also being awful, because the woman was like, complimented her on her tap dance and said, June, would you like to come and be my girl? And June Star's like, no, I certainly would not. Not for $1 million. So, rudeness all the time. So, but Red Sam and the grandmother have this whole conversation about how you can't trust people and how these days people aren't as good as they used to be. And the grandmother says, I can see that you're a good man. She says, you're a good man, right? But as we've read the story, Haley, do you feel like Red Sam is a good man?
I didn't, when I was reading through it the first time, didn't really think much about him, because I kind of just thought it was like a stepping stone on their journey, but probably not, because he was having his wife do everything, and he just kind of the dialect of that conversation was very like negative, and
yeah, he's definitely not a good person.
Yeah. Well, and he says, so she says, because you're a good man, the grandmother said once. And then he says, yes, ma'am, I suppose so. So, I mean, first of all, he's not being humble at all. Most of the time, if you're actually a good person, you're not going to be saying you're a good person. And then he his wife comes in carrying all the plates like piled up on her arms, trying to balance them. And she tries to join the conversation. She says, there isn't anybody on this green world of gods that you can trust. Count on nobody. And Red Sammy like cuts her off and tells her like, that's enough of that. Go get the Cokes or whatever.
Why don't
So,
the, 2 in each hand and 1 balanced on the arm? What do you?
yep.
That's not how you carry a bunch of plates. You stack them up.
Not when they have food on them that you're delivering. You don't stack them up. She's bringing the food out. She's not clearing the table.
Oh.
Yeah. But she doesn't have a tray, which is like also showing like this is probably not a well attended place. It's probably a poor place. But he also doesn't like get up to help at all. So Red Sammy's actually the one who says a good man is hard to find. And everything is terrible today. Right. So this conversation, to answer your question, Haley, is just showing that the grandma and this man congratulate themselves. They feel like they're good people just because they do the things society tells them to do. They've got families, have jobs, but they're really not good people. They're not kind, not thoughtful. They're very selfish and prideful. And the old woman even, she thinks it's Europe's fault that things are the way they are. Like they don't take any responsibility for their own actions.
Right.
And it just shows also that the grandmother she is not a good judge of character. Like she really doesn't know what good is. Because she said Red Sam is good. And then later she said to the misfit, she tells him that he's good. Well, it's silliness. Obviously, he murders people.
So there are a little bit of, and I couldn't, as I was reading through, I had both thoughts. I agreed with that. And then I was like, is there a little bit of like her being able to see the good in people? And see, because then later she's like, she's her own son.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. But I think it's more of she judges by appearance. So if a person looks like they're good, like they are dressed the right way, or they agree with her in the way that you should act, and she's talking to the misfit, and she says, where is it? He says he comes from good people, or he has, here it is. I know you're a good man. You don't look a bit like you have common blood. I know you must come from nice people. So she's judging by the outside and not by what people are actually doing or how they act.
Right.
It's all about appearance. So to her, having the appearance of being good is actually more important than being good.
Okay.
As long as you can look good. So like one of the symbols in the story is her hat, because she has this hat that's like all fancy and she's all dressed up for their car trip. And she even makes the comment like, if I die in a car accident, at least they'll know I was a lady. So it was really about looking like a respectable person, not actually being good. Because as you read this story, she uses the word, excuse me, but she uses the word nigger twice. She uses, even though she says she's a Christian, she uses the word Jesus as a curse word twice. So she's not a good people either. She just wants to look like she's good people.
This is a Christian Minecraft server. You can't say that here. No N-words.
Oh, sorry. Well, obviously I'm not
It's
saying
fine.
it as
It's fine.
So I'm just quoting the story.
I'm not actually triggered. I'm mocking people who actually get mad at that.
Yeah. Well, and I do try to be cautious. I don't want to.
I tend to ironically make fun of people who are dumb.
Sensitive.
It's well sensitive, and I make fun of racists and stuff because it's funny to make fun of them.
So, all right. So, but I'm just trying to demonstrate that she's not really good. And as
Yeah.
the story progresses, her hat starts to fall apart. Like the bill falls out off, and it starts to fall apart, which shows that her respectability or her air of respectability can't stand up to actual bad situations. So that's one of the symbols in the story. And Armand, if you can see the screen right now, you can see all my annotations for the
Yeah, I can see them. I
along the
finished the
side,
math quiz a minute ago.
right? And I post these, and I've posted them all the other 3 stories too. I put them in the stream in the Google Classroom, so you guys will be able to see them to study for the summative. Hey, what do you guys say about symbols and stuff? You want to talk about some symbols? Where's my paper? Doo-doo-doo. Little pop-up menu is getting in my way. I think it's this one. There we go. So one of the symbols is actually the kids' names, because the boy is named John Wesley and the girl is named June Starr. So John Wesley was actually the founder of the Methodist Church, and he believed in grace and a personal faith. And June Star could also be Summer Star, could also be Morning Star, which is actually another name for Satan. So in the story, the grandmother is seated in the car in the back seat. She is between John Wesley and June Star. So symbolically, she is between grace and damnation, or between heaven and hell. So it's that, like, she has to, like, she's between those 2 things. She has to make that decision. And then we already talked about her hat and how that's the appearance of good. Bailey's shirt. Bailey, I bet you picked up on this because you were talking about our conversation and how everything was really weird while everybody was being shot. Did you notice that they brought Bailey's shirt back to the Misfit and he put it on?
Yes.
What do you think about that?
That he maybe some sort of symbolism of having control of the situation.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Also, it could represent that or foreshadowing that he is her son or is like her son. Like she sees him as being maternal, like feels maternal towards him.
Oh, okay.
So because they took her actual son's shirt and they gave it to him, and he put it on. So it's, in a way, just symbolically, it's as if he became her son. And just exactly like you said, that quotation, "While you're one of my babies, you're one of my own children." And that was like a moment of epiphany for her. That was like a really important moment in the story where she realizes that, all people are people and all people are deserving of compassion and kindness. And it's not about appearance, but about like the heart. So that's one of them. And then, sorry?
No, anything.
Okay. And then the cloudless sky. I was reading the story for the second or maybe third time, and I noticed that Flannery O'Connor mentioned that the sky didn't have any clouds in it and it didn't have a sun. And she mentioned it 4 times. So that goes past description. That's when you know the author's trying to say something, if they've said something so many times. 3 times is a pattern. So I was thinking about it, and you know how in stories the sun or a sunny day represents like cheerfulness, joyfulness, like it's a sunny day, everybody's happy, usually. And in stories, usually a cloudy day is like a sad or a sorrowful or depressing day if the weather is representing what's going on in the story. Then I was like, so what does it mean if she specifically says there's no sun and there's no cloud? So I thought about it a little while, and I feel like it represents the moral ambiguity of the grandfather and the or grandmother and the misfit. That the grandmother is trusting respectability and social accepted behaviors for goodness, and the misfit has given up on goodness because he sees like injustice and he sees all the horrible things people do in the world. But neither of them have the right definition of goodness. They're both morally ambiguous. And so it's that it's not good and it's not bad. It's not cloudy. And the grandmother realizes when all people are worthy of compassion, and that was her moment of grace. And the misfit realizes that really there's not any pleasure in meanness, and that was his moment of grace. So both of them changed from their interaction with each other. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And also and then also she changes to dead.
Yes, she. But the good thing is, like, right is before she died, is when she has that realization. So she didn't die unknowing. She didn't die ignorant, right? And then what did you think about this line at the end? The misfit said, she would have been a good woman if it had been somebody there to shoot her every minute of her life.
More to the fact that she just like doesn't has no common sense and only focuses on like what people are looking like and what the rest of the world sees.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so it was that moment of fear for her life and for everything when she had the epiphany. So like it was the moment of her realization, her self-realization was connected to the fact that she was in danger. And he was saying, the misfits, like, as long as people are comfortable and they're, just going through their life the way they go, then they may never change. Not everybody, but for her, right? So it's a pretty dark story. That's, Southern Gothic, dark stories. I'm sure if you remember any of your Edgar Allan Poe, you remember how dark those were, both figuratively and literally. So I think it's pretty straightforward. What type of conflict was this short story?
Person versus person.
Yep, person versus person. And well, and also person versus society if you want to talk about the misfit. So, but yes. And then some of our themes. The title, so a good man is defined. Did we ever find a good man or person?
No, but it was like I did notice that like it was discussed. They literally said in the diner like there's no good help, no good man is a good man is hard to find.
Right. So one of the themes is that there are no good people, basically. And then one of the other themes is grace is offered at unlikely times to unlikely people, because Flannery O'Connor, she was Catholic, and she always was interested in exploring moments of grace. And so that's what the whole "You're My Child" moment was. So those are a couple of the themes. So I'm going to put my group annotations and that list of how this story is Southern Gothic on the, I'm going to put our discussion on the stream for the people who couldn't come. And then what else? Oh, so our test is on Tuesday, the summative for the 4 short stories. Our vocabulary quiz is on Thursday. And then the last week, the week of finals, we'll offer a summative for anybody who wants to take it. So those are the last 3 things that we'll have. And then if you do the activity for this, that's due on Thursday.
All right.
More questions or points of conversation, like anything else you wanted to talk about the story?
Nothing really about the story.
Okay. Haley, did it help clear up some of the points or what was going on? Yes. I saw you said yes. You're on mute, but I saw you said yes.
Yes, yes, it did.
Okay, good.
So I.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming to talk with me today. And, I will, well, you know what? I
Alright.
don't know when, because I don't think we'll have another Zoom.
I'll see you. My
Yes, yes, yes. That is coming up. Maybe I'll just have a Zoom just so I can be like, bye, everybody.
This is the last Zoom of the year.
The last Zoom of the year. That's right.
So I'm gonna go out with a.
Out with a.
Crap! I thought it was gonna play the. I was
Oh.
playing a thing. I was gonna play a sound effect through the mic.
Cute. You're
I'm
trying
trying
to.
to- I think it works if if I share the program. Oh, I can't share while you're sharing.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. You're right. All right. Well,
Maybe if I share the screen, then it'll work.
oh, yeah, but I've got mine up, but I'm about to turn it off. So, well, you guys have a good afternoon. I have another Zoom in like 15 minutes. So I'll talk to y'all later.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.